Look at any map today, and you'll see a planet carved up by disputed borders, constant global conflicts, and an endless stream of technological noise. It is an overwhelmingly complex system. To untangle how we got here, we have to look past the modern gridlock and travel back to the river valleys of ancient Mesopotamia. This is where humanity first decided to stop moving and start building. As these early cities figured out how to divide days into minutes and seconds and used writing to track their grain, daily survival became less of a struggle. That stability created a vacuum. Populations now had the resources to focus on structural organization, and their ambitions scaled accordingly. King Sargon of Akkad saw the potential in unification. He absorbed neighboring independent cities, centralizing their power, pride, and possessions into the first recorded empire. Every era of civilization inherits the solutions and the weapons of those that came before. Sargon's ambition began an unbroken momentum that links ancient city-states to modern global powers. Once these massive new systems of governance and communication were built, they refused to stay contained within the borders of the empires that created them. Take the Canaanites. They developed a phonetic alphabet roughly 3,500 years ago as a strict accounting tool for tracking ox and house trades. Because they etched these letters onto highly portable, everyday items, the writing system rapidly crossed regional boundaries. The Greeks absorbed those trade symbols and pushed them to their limits. They used these exact same phonetic sounds to record complex political philosophies and establish the mechanics of early democracy. The Romans then imported those Greek structures. They used those borrowed political ideas to organize their own republic and build a military machine capable of expanding across the entire known world. The sheer scale of that Roman expansion left permanent marks on the landscape. They poured their conquered wealth into massive architectural projects, creating physical and cultural structures that still dominate cities today. The engine of early human progress relies on this mechanism of transmission. Ideas outlived the very civilizations that birthed them, empowering whoever managed to conquer their creators. As these newly fortified empires pushed further out, the isolated pockets of humanity that used to exist independently began to press against one another. Massive centralized states like the Roman, Han, and Mauryan empires acted as early globalizers. They paved tens of thousands of miles of straight roads and established heavy trade networks that physically connected distant populations. These physical roads soon became spiritual highways. Powerful new belief systems, Buddhism, Christianity, and later Islam, piggybacked on these exact routes, spreading across entire continents. But when you force overlapping, mutually exclusive worldviews into the exact same geography, violence is the guaranteed result. This ideological crowding caused massive collisions, seen in events like the centuries of crusades over the Holy Land. The simultaneous rise of expansionist states and universal religions permanently wired the globe together. It set the permanent fracture lines that continue to define modern geopolitics. The final geographic link happened with the sudden, overwhelming expansion of the Mongols. Genghis Khan conquered twice as much land as Alexander the Great, effectively bridging the East and West. When the Mongols and subsequent powers restricted access to the Silk Road, desperate European merchants lost their direct pipeline to Asian spices and goods. They were forced to seek out alternate ocean routes. That localized economic blockage motivated Christopher Columbus to sail west to find a shortcut. Instead of Asia, he hit the Americas, initiating the global age of discovery. European nations quickly began extracting massive amounts of gold, silver, and raw materials from these newly encountered lands. They funneled this immense wealth straight back into their domestic economies. This influx of American wealth eventually hit a bottleneck. Manual labor couldn't process raw materials at the speeds required by a global market, creating a massive economic pressure to mechanize production. They abandoned traditional methods and turned to steam power and heavy iron machinery, creating a mechanized driving force for mass production and global trade. A blocked trade route in Central Asia eventually pushed the entire planet into a mechanized age of coal and steam. By the turn of the 20th century, the global map was completely filled in. The world had become a claustrophobic space, ruthlessly colonized and highly industrialized from corner to corner. The great towers quickly weaponized their new industrial might. They built vast navies and projected their military dominance across the oceans. Meeting endless raw materials to feed their factories, European nations turned their attention southward. During the scramble for Africa, they competed to extract resources from a continent that was already fully occupied by its own massive, established empires. Political architects met in European capitals to establish arbitrary, bureaucratic rules for this land grab, decreeing that you couldn't claim territory you didn't physically occupy. With literally nowhere left on the globe to expand, and all of these fully industrialized, hyper-competitive states pressing against each other's borders, they pushed themselves to the inevitable brink of total global war. We are moving within the momentum of an ancient process, driven by the same hunger for organization and power that built the first cities 5,000 years ago.